we come to another interesting story. Let me ask you, have you ever seen God? No, neither have I. It just doesn't happen. God is invisible, 看不到的. But in this coming lesson, number 61, we're going to talk about the presence of the supernatural. What does that mean? That means that in some way that the people back then were able to see, maybe not God, but to see something. So stay by as we talk about the presence of the supernatural.
Story 61. The Presence of the Supernatural. As we've studied the ancient tales, we've seen that the people were convinced that the supernatural was very real. They saw how they had been led out of Egypt by miracles. They understood that the voice of heaven spoke to them and told them what they should do. They recognized that Moses was a spiritual leader, taking them to the promised land. They could even see this supernatural presence literally. The physical presence of the supernatural went with them on their journey. The ancient tales tell us that a shining cloud hovered over the movable temple during the day, and at night it glowed with fire inside. Wow! That is something I would love to have seen. This shining cloud was to give the people the confidence that they were not on their own, but that they were being led by heaven. It was there to remind them to trust and not to worry. Today, we don't have such visible signs, but that doesn't mean the supernatural is not present in our lives anymore. I believe that this life is more than all we see around us with our eyes. There are things that we cannot explain without recognizing the supernatural. More than that, I would say that while we always tend to be thinking about this physical world, the spiritual world is more important. Whatever words you choose to use to describe the spiritual, there is something beyond all that we see and hear and touch. The word I think that best fits is God, because I believe that behind the spiritual world is a person, the Creator and Father in heaven. This is the one who was supernaturally present with Moses and the people in the sign of the glowing cloud that led them through the desert. We may not have a visible sign today, but I believe God is still present.
Well, as we have studied the ancient tales, we've seen that people were convinced that the supernatural was real. Okay? Now, we've been studying the ancient tales, this ancient book. We've seen that the people back there, this is 3,500 years ago, okay, that they were convinced, 已经这个确信 convinced that the supernatural was very real. 这个超自然的这个能力是真的，不是假的. They felt that it was real. They saw how they had been led out of Egypt. they saw, 他们就看到有这种能力，当然是神了，是上帝，是带他们从埃及出来。So they saw this. They understood that there was something supernatural. 知道有超自然的一个能力。They also understood that the voice from heaven spoke to them and told them what they should do. They understood, 他们明白, that there was a voice from heaven. Remember we talked about the mountain that was shaking and the thunder and lightning, and God spoke. I think God's voice was so strong that it shook the mountain. Okay, heaven spoke to them. 天庭就跟他们说, when you see the word heaven spoke to them, that means God spoke to them and told them, 就告诉他们他们该做的是什么, what they should do. Now, they recognized that Moses was a spiritual leader taking them to the promised land. Well, he was more than a spiritual leader, he was the real leader. They recognized 他明白到, okay, 了解到, okay, that Moses was a spiritual and real, of course, leader, 属灵的领袖, 带他们到 what? The promised land. Of course, the promised land is 应许之地, the land that they had been promised to. They left Egypt and they were going to somewhere else, and it was called the promised land. They could even see his supernatural presence literally. Now, this is hard. 他们 literally 真正的可以看到 literally in this case 是见证的 they could see this supernatural presence 超自然的存在 they could see it. You said, whoa, I thought you couldn't see God. Well, hang by and we'll see how it happened. Going on. The physical presence of the supernatural went with them on the journey. Okay, let's take it. The physical presence, okay, 实际的这个存在 of the supernatural of God. Supernatural God you cannot see, but somehow the 实际的存在 went with them on their journey, their trip, their traveling to the promised land. So there's something physical, something that they could see that was real. Even though you can't see God, you cannot see a supernatural power. Now, the ancient tales tell us that a shining cloud hovered, okay, over the movable temple. Okay, a movable temple hovered over. Okay, let's go back to the first. The ancient tales tell us that a shining cloud. We say that actually it says 这个云柱. It's a cloud, it's a 云, and it's like a pillar. 这个云柱. or sometimes we said 火柱, but it looked like a cloud. 看起来好像是云，虽然是火柱。It hovered. What does it mean to hover? Have you ever seen a hawk? A hawk is a bird, okay? And sometimes it hovers in a single place. It's not moving forward, it's not moving backward, it's just 圆柱. It's just right there, right at that spot. That's hovering. You can say floating. Yeah, 漂流也可以. Hovering over the movable temple. Movable means that it can be moved. Temple is 他们的陵墓, or this is where they worshipped. They had a worship temple, and it could be moved during the day, and at night it glowed with fire inside. So, let's read the whole sentence. The ancient tales tell us of a shining cloud that hovered over the movable temple by day, and at night it glowed with fire inside. So, the cloud was above the temple. 他们做礼拜的那个地方. During the day, and at night it glowed with fire inside. 晚上的时候，里面的火发光. So, you could see something day and night. Wow! That is something I would have loved to see. Well, we need to go on to some words from other parts of the Bible. Light on our path. So, stay by for light on the path, and we will come back to some more of this story. Okay, so now we come to light on our path, and we're going to look at Exodus 13, 21, and 22.
出埃及记13章21、22节。
And here's what it says. By day the Lord went ahead of them in the pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people.
经文说，日间耶和华在云柱中领他们的路，夜间在火柱中光照他们，使他们日夜都可以行走。日间云柱，夜间火柱，总不离开百姓的面前。艾老师，
Yeah.
这真是很美妙的一个景象啊！在诗篇也说到，是不是上帝的话是我们脚前的灯，是我们路上的光？那我们这个环节就是路上的光，对不对？我想问您，在您的生命中，上帝是怎么样带领你的，像那个脚前的灯、路上的光一样引领你的？
Well, first of all, the most important thing, I think, is that God is willing to lead. 但是呢，有时候我们人是不大愿意让他带领我们的。对。So I had to cooperate. I had to cooperate. But 这个一步一步 step by step, he was willing to lead me to have new experiences,
对
new education, 新的教育，
对
new teachers, and all of these were very important.
对，我就想到看了以色列人他们的经验，我就常常告诉我自己，上帝的意念高过我的意念。
That's exactly true, and that's the reason why we read the Bible. Thanks for joining us for a little light on our path. Okay, we've talked about this Yingmu, this Huimu, this temple. This is the place they were worshiping. And above it, there was this cloud. It looked like a cloud, even though we say Huozhu. It looked like a cloud during the day, and at night, it was still there, but you could see that it was bright inside. So 发光有火呢. So this shining cloud, this cloud that shines, was to give the people confidence, 增加他们的信心. In this case, confidence is 信心, that they were not on their own, 并不是单独, okay, 单独 meaning on their own, alone, by themselves, that they were being led by heaven. 那就是天庭，就是神，是带领他们. So you couldn't see God, but you could see the cloud. And it was glowing with light, especially at night. Whoa. Now, that should give confidence, right? Going on. It was to remind them to trust and not to worry. 提醒他们信任神，不要忧虑. Don't worry. 不要担心. Today, we don't have such visible signs. 我们没有那些看得见的这个记号. We don't have that. But it doesn't mean that the supernatural is not present in our lives anymore. 并不是说 it doesn't mean 并不是说这个超自然的不在我们的生活中啊. Supernatural meaning the presence of God. There is still supernatural occurring all around us. I believe that life is more than what we see around us with our eyes. 我自己觉得啦，这个人生并不是我们只能够看到的、看得见的东西、摸得到的东西。Life 人生并不只是这些啦。Life is more than what we see around us with our eyes. There are things that we cannot explain without recognizing the supernatural. 有些东西我们可以看到，没有其他方法解释，除非我们承认 recognizing, in this case, recognize 承认有超自然的能力. There are things that we cannot explain without recognizing the supernatural. Going on. More than that, 更加, I would say that while we always tend to be thinking about the physical world, the spiritual world is more important. Now, that's my own personal opinion. Maybe you don't think that way. That's okay. But I personally feel, and I have felt for many, many years, that of course, I think about where am I going to get my food, where am I going to get my clothes, all of these things. But the spiritual world is more important. Now, that's my own personal feeling, that 属灵的世界更加重要. Of course, there must be a balance, right? 还是要保持平衡啊。How do we say, Chinese say something like, how's the Chinese 中庸之道 or something like that. There must be a balance, a center. Whatever words you choose to use to describe the spiritual, 不管你是用什么话 okay, words, 什么话解释这个属灵的事情 There is something beyond what we see and hear and touch. 还是有一些我不晓得 something 这个有些超过我们所看得见的、听得见的、摸得到的。Okay? Do you believe that? I do. There is something special. I think if I were to explain what it is that goes beyond, I would say that the best word, the best fits, 最适合于解释 is God, 神 Because I believe that behind the spiritual world is a person. 我觉得在这个我们的世界后面有一个 spiritual world 属灵的世界 and behind that or in that there is a person. Of course, we say person, we mean 人体. What does God 他确确实实的存在 Okay, this is God. He exists. 他存在 He is a person. He's real. He's the creator. 他是创造主 And He is the Father in heaven. 也是在天上的父亲呢 That's what I believe. Whew. Now you know what I believe. That's my feeling. Going on. This is the one, capitalized one, this is God who was supernaturally present. 他跟摩西超自然的存在 He was there. He was with Moses. He was with the people in the sign 就是什么记号呢 The glowing cloud 这个发光的这个火柱 that led them through the desert. Actually, when they were moving from place to place, the cloud actually got up from the 会幕, from the temple, and started to move. And when they saw the cloud moving, they said, whoa, it's time to go. And they would pack up and go. We may not have a visible sign today. 或许没有看得到的东西 But I believe God is still present. Okay, stay by for some words you need to know. Now for some words you need to know. To begin with, we're going to look down here at confidence.
Confidence. 有的时候这个字用作自信，但是今天在这个故事里面，他是说相信，是不是？
Right, exactly. Because when they saw the cloud and the fire, they trusted, they believed that God was with them. 相信上帝与他们同在。The next one is a specialty. 你的特点呢 worry. Mothers,
对
mothers always worry.
对，所有的妈妈的特点就是很忧虑、很紧张自己的孩子。
Yes, that's true. And then the next one is to describe.
描述、说明。
So to describe something is to 描述 or 说明 or a description. We say sometimes a description.
这个字常常在我们考试的时候会出现。
Yeah.
要学生描述一个事情，要学生说明一个问题，对
Yeah,
吧？
麻烦啊。I hate those kinds of questions. Okay. And then another one is to fit. F-I-T, fit.
适合于什么什么。
Yeah, so this fits. You have to look at it in context because, but if clothing fits,
是很适合的衣服 ，size 很好。
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. Well, I guess that's about all the time we have for words you need to know. Well, in this lesson, we've been talking about the presence of the supernatural. We've been talking about the fact that you can't see God, but still God gave the people something that they could see. It was a cloud. It was a cloud that they could see, and it glowed, 就发光啊. Especially at night, you could see this cloud. And during the day, if they needed to move, the cloud moved, and the people moved also. Now, we will be going the next time to on the border of the promised land. They are almost there. So you want to join us for the next interesting lesson.
That's all for today, and thanks for watching. If you like Ancient Tales for Today, please visit atft.chinesehope.tv. You may also contact us by writing to ancienttalesfortoday@gmail.com. Again, that's ancienttalesfortoday@gmail.com. Tell your friends about Ancient Tales for Today. See you next time.